time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go.
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod. Use the
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another after show for the Acolyte. This is episode 4. The episode is called Day. We currently have Dan in the Escape Pod with us this week. We're supposed to have Kirk join us as well, and as you know, people just come and go, so we'll see who pops in. In the meantime, let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
Podcast. You seek good podcasts. Star Wars Escape Pod is the pod for you. Leave a review, and may the Force be with you.
All right, welcome back, Dan.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And we have hit the halfway point for the Acolyte Season 1. If there is more than one season, that is. But Season 1 it is for now. And Episode 4 was, I would say, initial impressions. Like, what did you think? What did you think about this one this week?
It was a better episode than the third one.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
It was still have lots of questions, but it's going in a better direction now.
Yeah, there was a lot more to like about this one. You know, like the writing was better. It was directed well. There was some really good, really well planned out shots in this episode, and I felt like overall the production quality of this one just for some reason just seemed a little better. I can't really tell what it is yet, but when I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm getting this larger scale, this like more cinematic feel about this episode than I did with the previous one at least. But yeah, lots, a few things to like here. So what I'll do is I'll read off the stats and then.
Hello.
There he is. There's Kirk. Welcome back, Kirk.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Loud and clear.
Yes, I can hear. Hey, hello everybody. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. We just booted up here. So this is Kirk, right before I read off the thing, initial thoughts, just like, one or two sentences. What was your initial thoughts of this week's episode?
Wait, are we in the podcast? Are we live?
Yep, we are.
Oh my god. I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
I love it.
We wait for
That's staying in.
Oh dear. Okay, what did I think of the episode? Well, they cut it short, but I still enjoyed it compared to the previous one.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right, so this episode's called Day. It was directed by Alex Garcia Lopez, written by Claire Cachil and Cor Adana. This episode released June 18th, 2024. On the harsh planet Kofar, May and Qimir relentlessly pursue Kel Naka, who has sought solitude in a secluded forest. Meanwhile, the Jedi Council grows suspicious of May's connection to a potential fallen Jedi. Sol and Osha, accompanied by a group of Jedi, are dispatched to apprehend her. Utilizing Basil, a Tinin tracker, the Jedi follow Kel Naka's scent. Osha's dormant connection to the Force reawakens, attracting a monstrous insectoid creature, which Sol swiftly eliminates. Overwhelmed by the seemingly insurmountable task of killing a Jedi without a weapon, May captures Qimir and resolves to surrender to Kel Naka. However, her plans are shattered when she discovers Kel Naka's lifeless body, slain by a lightsaber.
He was.
As the Jedi close in, demanding her surrender, a menacing figure emerges from the shadows behind them, igniting a crimson lightsaber and unleashing a devastating Force attack upon Osha and the Jedi. So, this episode was interesting. I also have a feeling, just throwing it out there, that the title of this episode is Day. No idea why. But the first couple episodes have usually had like a hyphenated title of some kind. So I have a feeling that the next one is going to be called Night. I'm just calling it now. It's like throwing it that out there.
I thought your theory to begin with, how each episode was going to be called to represent May and Osha, but that theory was quickly busted after the second episode.
By the second one,
The
the third one was Destiny. It was just one word, Destiny. I was like, okay, all right. But yeah, the first two, they had like this cool sort of balance thing going on, you know, with the slash, and it was like revenge, justice, and you know, whatever the other one was. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. It's almost too bad that they gave that up so quickly. But
yeah, they should have stuck with that for each episode.
yeah. So first thing on my list, we had the appearance of a legendary Jedi, Ki-Adi-Mundi. Did you guys catch that?
I did.
So
I didn't realize it was him until after the episode.
What are your thoughts on a Jedi like this showing up? Because I mean, you know, believe it or not, I mean, unsurprisingly, there are people who've been complaining about this, mainly because his Legends EU continuity birthday was, you know, it's like 30 to 40 years from now, kind of thing, from the point of this show. But you know, it's whatever. Like, that was Legend stuff. They've now adjusted it for canon. And he's a younger guy. He's still middle-aged, but I guess now his species that we haven't really seen a whole lot of now lives a long time. Yeah, I thought it was really cool that he showed up. I don't think it's a plot hole yet. I've been hearing a lot online that this is like a potential plot hole because he's the one that's so skeptical. You know, when Qui-Gon thinks the Sith have returned, and he's like, "Oh, the Sith have been extinct for a millennia." You know, but he's also the guy who says when it comes to like Dooku's involvement with the Clone Wars, he's also like, well, he's a political idealist, not a murderer. You know, and in actual fact, he's a Sith Lord. It's like, okay, I think he's a murderer. You murdered Yaddle and a bunch of other people, I'm sure. Like, I mean, you know, it's pretty clear this guy is like incredibly skeptical at just anything that happens.
He's also a serial womanizer as well. So from what I hear,
Ki-Adi-Mundi?
He might be a bit distracted with where he goes. Not womanizer. Yeah, he's got like lots of wives or something, doesn't he? I think he's got like, he's known to have like 10, 20 wives or something like that. That's how I remember reading.
What? Ki-Adi-Mundi?
Yeah, like I'm not joking. Wasn't it like in past lore and stuff?
Oh, in the EU,
he had like many partners over the years. Yeah.
Oh,
before he was a Jedi?
Yeah. All his species is Assyrian, and Mundi practiced polygamy due to the 1:20 male to female ratio among his species. Mundi first married Shay, his bond wife, and later married 4 honor wives, including Maywin, and then it continues. That's on his Wikipedia. Yeah, well, that's pretty
yeah,
crazy.
see, that's like, okay, I was about to say, like, if I just said that and like that didn't have any source to back it up, I would have looked pretty weird.
Okay.
So anyway, my point is maybe this guy is just heavily distracted by all the wives he has back at home. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. His nights are busy.
Or he's trying to escape them.
That's also true. But yeah, I thought it was the most appropriate thing for him to be present in that room, and for him to kind of shoot down any theory that it could be a fallen Jedi or whatever. I forget exactly what he said, but he of course he was the guy to like doubt everything, right? And I just thought that was really neat. So I don't know if he's ever going to show up in the rest of the series or not, but I feel like it was a nice inclusion of his character. And, you know, I didn't mind the fact that he was, you know, just a younger guy and they shifted the age date. Like, a lot of the EU content is, you know, I mean, I know a lot of people are attached to it, and I can sympathize there in many situations, but there has to be room for oxygen, you know, when it comes to like telling new stories. Like, that's the only reason we're getting half of these, like most of these stories. Like,
how long ago is the ACOLYTE supposed to be set? Is it 100 years? Is it like 50 years?
Yeah, I think it's about 100 years.
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, 100 years before Phantom Menace.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he looks about like 30 or 40 here. So I guess he's probably just double the age of what people originally thought Ki-Adi-Mundi is supposed to be by the time Revenge of the Sith rolls around. Yeah. Which is like, it's not like, I think that like it also, like, as you said I think it was Phantom Menace, you know, Sith hadn't been seen for millennia. Perhaps like this person that they come across and investigate throughout the later the season, like maybe he's not really identified as a Sith. He could be something else, you know, just because he wields a crimson lightsaber as well as the Force. It may not necessarily be classified as a Sith. Sith, I guess. Who knows?
Right. Like, and that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, we have no clue, even though they call him the Master, we have no clue that this guy is even a Sith Lord. And I threw this out on Twitter/X, the other day, but like we don't know. And if it is a Sith Lord, is it the apprentice or is it the Master? Like, it's the same question that Mace Windu poses at Qui-Gon's funeral. Like, are we looking at the Sith Master here, looking for a Sith apprentice, or are we looking at a Sith apprentice looking to recruit his own apprentice by way of acolytes so that he can kill his master, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I have a theory as to who he is.
Yeah, why don't you go and share your theory there, Dan?
So I don't know about like what role he plays, but what I think, and this is just throwing it out there, I think it's the sidekick guy that's been following May around.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
Qimir.
Because he was pushing really hard on her, like, you got to kill him without a weapon. You got to do this. Like, kept pressuring her. I'm like, you're the guy.
Right.
It's such a bad, like, I'm totally not the guy, but I am the guy.
Like, and if it turns out to be him, I'm like, you guys played it a little heavy-handed.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's a red herring. It's going to be something else, but it just seemed too obvious.
So, okay, yeah. So we're jumping right to that then. Okay, all right. So I got something to play.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's just dive into the substance, because I feel like that's where a lot of the conversation is. But okay, so here I'm gonna play something for you. This is a interview from a while ago, and I who do I credit for this? Somebody on Twitter like sent this out. This is big thank you to Alex Leonis. That is
actually speaking of Twitter. I think the writer for this episode was like, I saw them answer a few people's questions about this episode too, which is usually quite rare. I'm not sure if you guys came across that thread at all.
No,
nope.
I didn't see that. No, maybe if you want to pull that up and we can go through that. Let me just play some of this audio for you. This is a interview that happened, I think, sometime last year or maybe a few weeks or months ago. I'm not entirely sure. But it's an official press conference, and there's someone who is asking questions to the main two cast members. One of them who plays Qimir, and the other who plays Osha and May. So let's just take a quick listen.
Manny, when you were hanging from that tree in episode 4, I was wondering, how long did they have you up there? What was it like filming that scene?
Thank you for asking that question.
Well, Manny actually opted to do this.
Yeah.
Because originally I was supposed to be hanging by the tree. And then Manny thought, let's switch this up and reverse it.
Thinking that it would be better for the story. And yeah, I ended up hanging upside down for a good amount of time. It was, luckily we had, our stunt team there to make sure that not too much blood was rushing to my head, because after a certain point you get like these red little dots that appear on your face and can be pretty dangerous. But I think Mark Ginther, our head stunt coordinator, was saying that maybe like a minute tops, like you should be under there.
That was kind of the stunt rule.
Yeah.
1 minute upside down and then you're done.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tough. Yeah, very. It was
it looked like you were up.
So it's interesting that he actually says that it was his idea to do the hanging by the tree. It was originally supposed to be May. So I don't know what the original story choice being May hanging by the tree was supposed to fit into all this. But do either of you guys feel like there's something kind of weird there? Like if it was...
The only thing I can think of is like maybe if she was hanging by the tree, that's when he went and killed Kanaka.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but then the reveal would be very obvious, right? Like if it was May who's hanging by the tree, and then Qimir goes out, like then we would all be like, oh well, shoot, like it's him, right? But there's still like it's like they've managed to hold us at a certain level of doubt so far, where like we can't really quite tell. It's like maybe it is him. Like I have a strong feeling that Qimir is probably him, but at the same time, like there's still a chance that it might not be. You know what I mean? But who else could it be, right? Like I mean,
there's a slight chance. I just feel like it's so circumstantial that he is like really oddly specific about how to kill these Jedi, what she needs to do, what she doesn't. I don't understand like where he's coming from or anything. I feel like there's just so much missing about the characters that we don't know yet. Not because they haven't, it's necessarily bad storytelling, but we may not know these things. And then like he's on the planet at the same time. He gets trapped. I think it's supposed to like obviously make make us, I guess, kind of think that he's, trapped and it can't be him. But like, I think it is pretty sure it's him. I feel like in that bag that he carried into the woods had his mask and his outfit inside.
I paused. I freeze framed the moment where he lifts up his hand and like force pushes Osha aside, and I was just staring at his fingers for like way too long, like just trying to like analyze if that was actually him. And then I went to another scene where we could like see his hands, like, and I was like, is it him? Like, I can't quite tell. The lighting is off and it's too dark, but I don't know. I look like a crazy person, like standing like 3 feet away from my wall, going like,
That was a pretty cool scene though. Him floating, like whoever is the bad guy floating into the scene. Like,
that was
out of focus, like
super well done. Yeah, out of focus, like kind of back there. Like, do you remember the 2D micro series, like the Genndy Tartakovsky 2D Clone Wars?
Oh yeah, the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and there was a scene in that show where Dooku does the same thing, where he kind of like levitates down to speak to Asajj Ventress after she kind of fights in this battle arena thing to try and prove herself to Dooku to become his assassin, and he does the same thing. So it's kind of long been this weird kind of Sithy thing to do, is just to kind of levitate around, and I always thought like it would look a little weird on screen if people did do that, like if Jedi started to fly around and stuff. Like, I thought like, man, that's like, I'm glad that's the one thing that hasn't reached our eyes, in the live action canon yet. But I gotta say, this episode blew me away when it came to how well that can be pulled off in the right setting at the right moment. And I never thought to myself it could be so well placed in a creepy scene like this, where it's building suspense, it's kind of horrifying, someone's just discovered a murder, and then who we know the murderer to be, it's a lightsaber wound, it's pretty obvious it was him. He kind of just floats down like a Voldemort or something like that, or like some like, it's just like, I was like, wow, that was incredible. Like, I thought that was easily the best shot of the episode, the best moment by far.
Yeah.
And
of the season
so far. That brief like 30 seconds was the best thing that has come out of the show.
And
so
then
far.
they cut it.
And then they cut it.
And then end of episode. Like, what? Oh my God.
I screamed at the screen. We're like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
yeah.
I have a mini rant about this, and you know how there's so many episodes out there, millions of TV shows where they cut on a cliffhanger, right? You just want to know what happens in the next episode. But for me, this one felt a bit different. I'm just like, nothing has really happened in this episode, and like just mid-action sequence, they decide just to cut it right there, or at the start of an action sequence. I felt like this reminds me of like in episode 7 of The Mandalorian season 1. So Moff Gideon rocks up, and I think they're about to engage in this battle between him and Mando and everyone else that was there. I felt like that was cut kind of at the right time, but still wanted us to. It hadn't quite started that final confrontation, but this one, like, it just right there it cut, and I'm like, the episode's just getting started. And then I looked at the timestamps, like, and it was just like 28 minutes in, like, wow, this is a really short episode. I feel like they just cut it for the sake of cutting it.
Yeah.
Was it only 28 minutes?
Yeah, without credits, it's 28-minute episode. Like, it's super short.
Yeah, it's almost too bad that this wasn't longer, but at the same time, I think I know why they did it, because they wanted to leave viewers with like a really high note, like on a good high kind of thing, because at the red carpet, when they had all their social media influencers, like, there, I'm not going to name them, but like there's a whole bunch, it's pretty easy to find who's there, and they all got to see the first 4 episodes. So they didn't just watch the first 2, they actually watched like half the season. And I think they intentionally made this one a certain way to kind of leave them with like a good vibe, like a good high kind of thing, so that they would have some good things to say about it, and at least that's just my theory, right? Like, because I had pretty good feelings after this episode ended too. I was like, what the heck, like, I want to see more. And then
do you think at those screenings they like combine all the episodes into one?
I think,
and then like, or do you think they have the credits, and do you think they have the credits and everything like how we watch them, and they just hit play for the next one? I'm kind of curious.
I'm curious about that too. I think that would be a little weird if they just kind of played 4 back-to-back episodes like that. that. Like, I think they must have some kind of supercut they do. But they might just fade to black and then just kind of start the next one. I don't know. That's a good question. It's a good question. Yeah, it's a question for somebody who's there.
As you can tell, I'm not one of those celebrity influencers to see these episodes.
We're not nearly that important.
Is anybody else bummed that they keep killing the interesting characters like Carrie-Anne Moss and Cal Naka? Like, I wanted to see more of the Wookiee Jedi, and it's like,
don't get me started. I was very upset. I think in the last couple of episodes of the podcast, I've been like, I can't wait to see the Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah, we didn't get to see him really do anything, like fixing a speeder bike, and then and as soon as she walked into that spaceship and his back was to us, I'm like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah, I had a bad feeling too when she walked in. There was like nobody there, moving around or anything. But have you guys watched all the trailers though? Because I don't want to spoil anything.
I haven't seen.
No, I have not.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, like, it's not like it's like a huge. I mean, it's kind of obvious that they're gonna explain more as to in regards to episode 3. That is, so I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I mean, this was a bit of a twist, but there's for sure got to be some more story with him. I mean, like, there's certainly trailer footage.
Flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly. There's certainly trailer footage that hasn't fully been fulfilled yet, but we have seen most of it. So, like, going forward, I think we're in mostly open waters here, uncharted territory as far as speculation goes, because literally hardly a second has been seen from the upcoming episodes. Just more of the duel.
Do you know what?
Say again?
Imagine the next episode like this. Imagine this at next episode. This guy with the crimson lightsaber, like, he's just the Jedi wake up and he's just disappeared, and like that's the fight scene. Like, it's over. I have a slight feeling that might happen. It's like, just wait all this week for this big battle.
Yeah.
Man,
what if that slice is just like a small flesh wound in typical Disney Star Wars fashion? He's just like, what happened? Or someone goes in, just does the Force heal, he just comes back to life. Oh man!
And is it just me? But in that final scene as well, I swear I saw Plo Koon or someone that looked like Plo Koon on the far right of all the Jedi standing. I don't think it's him though.
No. So there's been a lot of speculation that Plo Koon is in this show because there's what's the species name? Keldor or something like that. So. There's a Keldor that shows up. He's with the group that goes to investigate the forest, and he whips out a green lightsaber at the very end there, against the Dark Warrior. And I don't think it's Plo Koon anymore. I used to think it could have been up until the point where he was present at that fight and whipped out a green lightsaber, and then I was like, no, there's no way it's him. Like, no way. Otherwise, that whole
he's still waiting for his grand re-entrance.
Yeah. Like, I think it's cool that they included his species, and I guess they all look kind of the same, but no, I don't think it's Plo. It would make literally no sense if it was, unless it's not a Sith Lord, right? Like, that's the only thing that kind of makes a lot of this okay, with Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon. Not that I really mind about Ki-Adi-Mundi, but some people are like, no, you shouldn't be here for this plot line unfolding with the Sith Lords and stuff like that. And I totally agree. But there can be no witnesses. That's the key event that needs to take place. Like, there can be no Jedi witnesses. It needs to be a cover up. They have to do something in which, like, everyone who sees this dude needs to die. And then they got to, like, try and figure out, like, who's gonna do it. Like May's not a Sith Lord or anything, right? But if someone discovered Cal Naka was killed by a guy wielding a red lightsaber who uses the Force, like, what's Ki-Adi-Mundi gonna say then, right? Like, is he still gonna say the Sith have been extinct for a millennia? Like, I don't think so. So, like, I
think he's more concerned about the droid attack on the Wookiees.
Yeah, dude, this guy is such an idiot. I mean, in the movies, like, he's so dumb. But then in the animated series, he's actually, like, quite a good character. Like, he's really wise and really well written. But in the movies, I feel like George has always kind of intended to write him as this very skeptical, unlikable character. I don't know about you guys, but I've never really liked Ki-Adi-Mundi as a character. Like, he's a cool character design, but I've never thought of him as, like, a great Jedi or anything like that. I don't know.
He's actually my favorite character in
all
of Star Wars.
Is that because he's a ladies' man?
I love him. Oh, that's exactly you got me on that one. No, not quite. I don't know anything about him to have an opinion. All I know is that he's a good example of that. If you have a big head, you don't have a big brain.
Yeah. So, if it is a Sith Lord. Is this someone we know from Legends, or is it somebody new? Just like it's either one or the other. So maybe we can all just take a guess. My theory is that it's somebody new, but there are people out there who think, okay, this could either be a canon version of Plagueis. We have elements of this whole creation of life thing taking place now in the show with the witches. Perhaps, there's a connection there with him coming to learn some of that knowledge and be one of the first non-witches to do it. In EU, he was immune, like a different race, like the banking clan people. That's Darth Plagueis' race originally, but and it would kind of suck if they changed that, but whatever. Then there's also, I think it's Plagueis' one of his apprentices, I believe, or his master, in which all of those character designs would change too. But Tenebris, I think, is his name. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Maybe, Kirk, we can start with you. Do you think this is somebody new, or do you think it's a canon adaptation of somebody that we've come to know in the expanded universe?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's someone new. And unless we're talking about somebody else, I'm still thinking it's the sidekick that got strung up earlier in the episode. That's what I'm thinking.
Qimir. Okay, yeah, cool. Dan, what about you? What are your thoughts on this?
Same. I think it's the sidekick, and he's just going to be some new character. I don't see them doing like such a major reveal of like something from the EU for like how much short time we have and how short these episodes are.
Would you be disappointed if it was a character like someone like Plagueis?
Yeah, because I can't. Well, yeah, because just seeing like what the character looks like and like what they've been doing, like I feel like it's kind of low stakes for him if it was Plagueis.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, well, we had this interesting sequence in the episode. We're backtracking a little bit, but there was these bug things that showed up, and who was it that just straight up killed one of them? Soul. Yeah, he just like kills one of them, and I thought to myself, okay, like this was one of those like brief moments in the story which really has nothing to do with the overall plot at all. It's just kind of like for us, for those small creepy vibes. I thought the creature design was really cool. And I thought to myself, like, okay, curious that a Jedi in this time period would just straight up kill a creature like that who has been disturbed. I just thought to myself, maybe some of the Jedi in at least the High Republic books that I've read would most likely use the Force to try and calm that creature down and send it away or something like that. So I just thought it was interesting because maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I thought, okay, this is reflective of an end of an era kind of thing. Like this is kind of what maybe a Jedi like Anakin would do, or Obi-Wan, like a Jedi in the prequels who, you just like hack and slash through your way through a mission in that way, and less sort of reliant on things that the Force can provide to, be that peacekeeper in the galaxy that they're supposed to be. And so, because, these are just innocent creatures. Did you guys kind of read into this at all, or maybe I'm just going haywire here?
I kind of thought the same thing too at first. Like I was like, wow, he just straight up murdered it. Like instead of trying to use the Force to. I thought they were cool though. Like as soon as I saw those things on the tree, I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a creature. And then of course, Osha is like, oh, I'm gonna go touch this weird thing growing out of a tree. Not the smartest decision.
Yeah. I was literally like, don't touch it, that thing's something, and then she touched it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. What did you guys? Is there anything else that I'm not bringing up here that maybe I missed? But any notes that you guys had that you want to bring up?
I guess a general thing is that so Osha in this episode, May in this episode is quite clearly deciding to abandon her mission for her master. I feel like I don't quite understand why she suddenly flipped. I think she's seen her sister, and maybe she's having second thoughts, but she's on this trek, and then she just decided all of a sudden, like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, even though she just killed 2 Jedi previously. She seemed pretty good.
Fast, like, oh, everything's changed. My sister's alive. I'm gonna,
yeah. And then she just was like, okay, yep, I forget about this. I'm gonna now turn myself into the Jedi and just go to prison. Like, it's like that's a huge decision for an evil person to do, even after doing all of that. And I don't know. Did either of you guys find that kind of strange? It's just and especially because Osha, with speaking to Saul, she has obviously now knows that her sister is alive, and she did love her sister from the last flashback that we saw. And she's like, yep, that's the Jedi's problem. I don't care about her. I'm leaving the Jedi. They can deal with my sister, not my problem. And the other sister is just abandoned her evilness.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, when they were young, May was the one that's like, we got to stick together. We're 1 and 2. Like, Luke and Anakin struggled between the light side and dark side, whereas May just like instantly made like there was not really any struggle for her. She's like, oh, my sister's alive. I'm going to go turn myself in, and hopefully they'll forgive me for killing these 2 Jedi.
Something about May and her character with how she perceives the way that things unfolded. I think it's a little different than Osha, of course, who witnessed May, assumingly having died, right, from the fall. She gets taken, she gets the life of the Jedi and all that stuff. May, on the other hand, we don't really know exactly what was going through her head the moment that she caused the fire. Maybe it wasn't even May. Like, maybe this is all a big misunderstanding, and it was maybe some sort of witchcraft or magic that made it look like May, but it was really somebody else or something, right? Like, who knows? And we don't know all the answers yet. But if it was May, it's kind of weird that she, decides to kill her sister, and then all of a sudden she thinks all's well. But at the very end of episode 3, she starts looking for Osha in the woods, and that's how the episode ends. So her whole life, she's thought that Osha has died in the fire. And when Sol tells her that she's alive, it's something that she's never heard before. And Sol makes sure that Osha knows that. So, it's a lot of questions surrounding that event right there. But I think just based on that alone, the fact that she realizes, oh, my sister's alive, her killing all these Jedi out of probably revenge, I would assume has something to do with her supposed sister's death, right? But now that she's actually not dead at all, she's actually alive and cares about these people that she's been killing. I think she's realized, hey, that plus I've got to try and kill a Wookiee Jedi with no weapon. Like, screw this, right? So she thinks, if I turn myself in right now, maybe they'll give me a chance. Like, but at least Osha's alive. I can be with her again if I just kind of give up now, right? And I think she's also thinking, like, she's also doing a lot of this out of fear, because she says to Qimir, or Qimir kind of says to her, or vice versa, whatever, that the master will find you. The master will know all this stuff. And I think she's just like, okay, I'm just going to tie up Qimir. He's obviously loyal to the master, in the way that I thought I was. So, I'm just going to tie him here and take my chances and find the Jedi for help. And things go horribly wrong. And so, yeah, there's a lot to consider there. And I think we don't quite know the full story to get the picture of, her entire motive there. But yeah, it should be an interesting one to find out. Let me think. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up here. What was it?
Basil?
I believe, Basil?
Oh,
yeah,
Basil.
true.
Basil is cute.
Basil. That thing was it was a cool creature, but at the same time, it was like the most random thing that they could have possibly put in this episode. You know what I mean? Like,
Basil was just like a raccoon. Like that's what a beaver. Sorry, he just was like a beaver.
Yeah.
Remind me of the gopher from Caddyshack.
Oh yeah.
Like, where have these things been the whole time? The Jedi Order just has these things on speed dial. Like, oh, we need
These
a tracker
trackers that we send out.
Yeah. Like, they've never showed up before.
I love there's already a Star Wars databank entry for Basil. A natural tracker and ally of the Jedi Order, Basil has a hypersensitive nose that can detect his quarry at a distance. The diminutive Basil is tenacious in his hunt.
Wow.
Great.
Sounds like
I also love how like he does look like just like an animal, but like he's fully dressed in what seems to be like pilot gear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a engineer / tracker or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, is it just me, or is this show? And I actually quite like it. Does this show seem like a lot more grainy to you guys? Like watching it, I feel like they've gone for like a really like film like emulation grain aesthetic to it. I don't know. I'm just looking at some of these shots from the
talking about the nighttime scenes, or just all of it.
Oh, just all of it. It's not a criticism or anything. I actually quite like it. It just seems like they've dialed up the grain with these episodes to make it seem like it's potentially like an older piece of Star Wars content, I guess.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. Did you notice that, Dan?
I didn't in watching it, but looking at screenshots, I see it. I don't know if that's just like compression from the images on the
maybe
internet, or if it's like
I didn't notice that either. Yeah, I know in the past though there was one episode which had an issue with the HDR on Tales of the Empire. It was like the second or fourth episode or something. And it was just an issue with the HDR, so everything seemed like super blown out and like all the colors were off. And I remember reading about it on Reddit after I looked it up online, because I was like, thought I was going crazy. And adjusting my settings on my projector and stuff. And I was like, what the heck? Then I went to a different episode and it was fine. And so when I looked it up, I was like, sure enough, that one episode, it was just uploaded to Disney Plus with a problem. So I don't know if you go to a different episode and check it out. Maybe it was just a problem with this episode that it was, or maybe it was just the compression, or perhaps whatever app you're using on the device that you're watching on may have like
I think I think it's actually just a stylist. Like I'm watching it. I've seen it on multiple different screens now. I just noticed there's a lot more really, I guess like maybe my cinematography background, like and color grading background. I guess I just noticed that they've added a bit more than some of the past shows. But I guess it's so unnoticeable that it doesn't really change anything. It has nothing to do with the story at all. Just
right. It's certainly possible that they tried to emulate that look, because I like going into the Phantom Menace, right? Like, I mean, there's definitely a stylistic choice when it came to involving the Nemoidians, like in like the first episode of the series. They really do have intentions to try and tie this show in to the prequels as much as possible. So like perhaps because the first film of the prequels was done on film, like maybe they're trying to emulate that in some way, some shape or form. But I am glad that it's not super like crisp, right? Like I think that's what makes some of these shows just seem so artificial is when they're just like so freaking clear that it's like
Actually, one thing I did notice in terms of like the set design and stuff, I definitely feel like they haven't really used the volume that much at all, if anything, on this show. Like I don't notice like the common round circle environment kind of set, which is a good thing as well. Like I think they kind of went away from using the volume for this show, albeit I think it having a much larger production budget versus I think like Kenobi and not Andor, but it's quite more similar to Andor in terms of set design.
Right, yeah. I am glad that they relied on a bit more of the set design. Yeah. I'm just watching it right now in front of me, as on mute, as you're talking about the grain and stuff, and I'm just looking at that last scene where he like hovers in. I didn't mention this yet, but like, man, is her name Daphne? Is it Daphne something or another who plays Daphne Keane or something that plays the Jedi Padawan, Jackie? Yeah. Her line when like that Sith Lord walks in, she's like, "What is that?" I was like, man, that's so good. Like just like the shivers up all of their spines, right? Like they can feel the dark side, and Soul can feel the dark side as he like turns around. Like he can't hear anything, but he can feel it, and he turns around and sees this thing like just hover in. And I love, like, it's not who's that, it's what is that. Like it's like this creature of just seething hatred and rage or something like that. Like it's so well done. I really loved that whole like section at the very end there. There's also something really cool. Sorry, say again.
It was a really cool scene.
Yeah. There was something else that I didn't mention earlier, which was when Qimir is talking to May about Osha and her relationship with the Jedi. He says, "Oh, she really seems to be fond of that one Jedi. What's his name? Soul." And then he kind of like turns around and walks away or whatever. But I went back, and not one episode does he actually like say his name or like hear his name anywhere. And even in the scene where Soul goes into his little store and confronts him with Yord and Jackie, and basically kind of confronts him about meeting with May and stuff like that. He doesn't introduce himself. I think it's only Yord who introduces himself. So he knows Yord's name, but he doesn't know Soul's name. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well, that like we don't have any exchange of who these people are to Qimir. So he's acquired that information somehow, some way, but I'm not entirely sure how yet.
How come none of these Jedi like pick up on like anything from him? Is it kind of like how Palpatine like could hide like who he was?
I think so.
Just good at masking themselves.
Yeah, like it's like that's just it, right? I think it's how Yoda puts it. Like the dark side clouds everything. It's they're blind to the deception that this side of the Force brings to its users, or to they shroud themselves and can mask their identity just really well. well. And you know, when it comes to Palpatine, I mean, he's a master of deception. Like this guy, his true face is the one that we see after Mace Force, you know, lightning blasts it. Like that's his true form. And you know, I mean, not really with all the wrinkles and stuff, but like that's what he really is like character-wise. The Emperor that sits on the throne in front of Luke Skywalker is the same Emperor who talks to Lord Tyrannus under the hood, the same one who talks to Darth Maul under the hood, right? Like this is the guy who lives in the shadows. That's his real form. That's his real self right there. Is this Sith Lord? He's not the nice senator and then turns to the dark side. He's like that's a mask. That's not who he really is. And I think for whoever this guy is, if it is Qimir, you know, he is just a master of deception, right? Like Qimir is a facade. If it is him, that is, it's a mask that he wears essentially to protect himself, to hide who he really is. And the Jedi can't sense anything, you know, when it comes to that kind of thing. And then it's only when he puts on the mask, he kind of reveals himself intentionally, that, you know, that's when they can kind of feel everything that emanates out of him. But they describe it really well in the books a lot of the time when it comes to sort of the Jedi dealing with the Sith in that sort of way. I remember reading the book Brotherhood and seeing the first exchange happen between Ventress and Obi-Wan and Anakin on Cato Nemoidia, and I thought that was a really interesting, like the way that how they wrote that was a really good book, by the way, if anyone's looking to read one. But yeah, it was it's really cool how they kind of describe, you know, the situation unfolding and the dark side clouds everything, like Yoda says. So all right, well, that's all I got. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to talk about.
The only thing I have left is I thought it was cool going way back to the beginning, seeing, you know, the Jedi training in the Jedi Temple. It's always nice to revisit.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what about you, Kirk?
I think that's about it. That's about it on my end. I don't think I have anything else to share about this episode. I'm trying to think. Yeah.
All right, well, let's give this guy some Pablo points of poodoos. So hold on a second. Let's cue the music, shall we? Okay, so I've got a new tracker, so people can see this now. So the link to this is in the description below on the link tree. Make sure you hit the link tree link or go to the podcast archives. I think that's available through the link tree if it's not already listed below in the description. But there are multiple tabs at the very bottom of the Sheets doc, which tracks all the episode releases. One of them is called Pablo Points of Pooties. It's our rating system on the show. 3 Pablo Poodoos is the worst of the worst. Moving up from there, you got 2 Pablo Poodoos, then 1 Pablo Poodoo, and then a Bendu. Bendu is a 50% score. Then you got 1 Pablo Point, 2 Pablo Points, and 3 Pablo Points being the best of the best of the best. So, more recently, I think on average, I feel like we all kind of gave the first 2 episodes between a 0.5 and a 2. The third episode, that was pretty rough. 1.5 to about 2 Pablo Poodoos on average. I think, Dan, you were the most generous, giving it a Bendu. But maybe we can start with you, Kirk. What would you give episode 4?
Oh, episode 4, I think I'm going to give a 0.5 Pablo points on this one.
0.5 Pablo point. All right. Okay.
0.5 Pablo points for me.
Not too shabby. What about you, Dan?
Give it a 1 Pablo.
1 Pablo point. All right. Cool. Okay. I think I would give it 1 Pablo point as well. It was a lot shorter than I expected. No pun intended there. That's literally a quote from Star Wars. Yeah, I think I did not mean to do that. But yeah, that was it was shorter than I expected. But I mean, you know, I'm hoping that, I mean, like, we all know what's gonna happen next week, right? Like, next week's gonna be the big fight, the one that, you know, has showed up in the trailers. This is the fight that they have most been teasing us, the one that they've been building towards, and I think literally wrote the show around, most likely, because I think the creator herself said something about how they wanted to one up the Darth Maul fight. I don't know how the heck they're going to do that, but I am eager to find out. So far, they're off to a good start. I don't know if it's ever going to top Duel of Fates, but I mean, I appreciate a good fight that can at least try and make its way there without looking ridiculous. So, but yeah. All right. Well, that's Pablo Points of Pudu. So thank you guys both for the rating. We also had a response from Bryce, who input his score as 1 Pablo point for episode 4 as well. So it looks like we're all pretty even, between 0.5 and 1 Pablo point. But yeah, only 4 episodes left of the series. So here's hoping that the rest is good. All right. Well, thank you both for coming on, and we will see you in the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod.
And you can catch me devouring donuts at Dexter's Diner. Oh, because that's where I'll be.
All right. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Dan. See you in the next one. All right. Big thank you to our audience for tuning into the show. We really appreciate all of you out there. And don't forget, we are available on every podcast platform in the galaxy. So be sure to leave us 5 stars if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That really does help us out. It helps people find the show in the search. Helps with the algorithms, all that stuff when you leave a review. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave a few words of kindness to Star Wars Escape Pod. We really appreciate it. And share the show with your friends. That really helps us out as well. We want to expand the audience circle. You can follow us on X with the handle at SW Escape Podcast. And you can look us up on YouTube with the same handle at SW Escape Podcast. All of those links are in the description below. And more recently, we are doing something new. So starting with the ACOLYTE Aftershow, if you are using Spotify, which now supports video podcasts, the same video version that we upload to YouTube will also get uploaded to Spotify as well after about a day or two. So if you're keen to tune in day one, you'll get the audio as usual. But if you wait around just long enough, you might catch some video happening on there as well. It's nothing special. Just a video loop with some equalizer bars going up and down. But hey, it's something to look at. And we'll just see how well it goes. And if it's not too time consuming, I'll keep doing it for the rest of the podcast. But anyway, just a bit of podcast news there. We have a sticker thing going on with our friends at EastPost Sticker Company. So use the promo code EscapePod. Get a free Star Wars Escape Pod sticker and 10% off your order. Details are in the description below. Check it, ALKY, SABERS, ORBITKEY, all that stuff. May the Force be with you, and we'll see you in the next one.